Good evening, everybody. That was so beautiful. I love teachers so much. Well, welcome. I am Gina Thomas McGee. I am the museum's curator of education, and I am so happy that you are here tonight. This is one of our favorite events of the year. It is certainly our favorite teacher event because instead of listening to us, we're listening to each other. So I'm so happy that you're with us for our annual TeachTalk event. Did anybody join virtually last year? Wendy, extra credit. Yes, so we've been holding this event since 2014, and it was inspired by the fact that we have held teacher professional development for a number of years, and what we found is teachers are not at a loss for ideas. Did anybody ever run out of ideas in your classroom? Did you run out of budget? Okay, well, we can't help with that. I would love to. Teachers don't need ideas. They don't need lesson plans. What they need is inspiration and support and advocacy and camaraderie, right? This is what beats us down and leads to us being worn out and not being able to bring our best selves to our educational environments that need us so much. I know it is easy to lose sight of what we're doing in the day-to-day, but teachers change the world. And it sounds hyperbolic, but it's just real. It just is real. You'll hear when people get up on Oscar award ceremony stages or the Emmys, the Grammys, do you hear them thanking teachers? I have, many times, right? This sticks with people. These are important moments, and we have you to thank for them. So before I cry, I want to thank all of you for coming and spending your precious leisure time with us tonight. This is one of a series of programs that we do for educators of all kinds. We love to bring teachers in the building, teachers of art, teachers of history, teachers of children, teachers of adults. We do think that the museum and art has the power to reach all of those people and teach the teachers as well. So we're hoping that tonight you leave with your cup a little bit more filled up than it was when you came in the door. And we have 7 amazing speakers for you this evening from all different backgrounds, all different teaching areas, subject matters, age groups, to tell us about the gems and treasures that they have found in their teaching. I do want to take a moment to thank our lead sponsor for this evening, which is First Energy Foundation, who has gladly and very generously supported our teacher professional development here at the museum. They are very interested in helping teachers have the resources they need, so we're so thankful to them. And I want to also thank my colleague, Sloan King Owen, who really did most of the work here for this event. And this is Sloan over here, woo woo. I'm gonna embarrass her by calling her out. She is the museum's newest educator and comes to us with an incredible amount of energy and connection to teachers and students alike. So we're so happy to have her here. And with that, are we ready? Yes? Can you figure out a way, maybe on the seat in front of you or something, to give me a drum roll? Ooh, I know we've got a couple music teachers here. Do we approve? Yeah? Okay, and also, please bear with me. Our computer is a little sluggish. It also had a long day, so as you advance your slides, it might take a minute for them to pop up. But I want to invite to the stage our first speaker, Tana, who I thought she was trying to win over my heart with her title of her presentation here. So I cannot wait to see what is beyond the handprint turkey. Welcome, Tana.
My name is Tana Lee Schideberg King, and I am wanting to take the opportunity to thank the Akron Art Museum for the ability to share tonight. I have been fortunate enough to work in the field of education for over 30 years, 25 of it with little people. So, just a real quick show of hands. How many of you have given a kid a piece of paper and said, hey, we're gonna go ahead and trace your hand for insert holiday here? Have you done it to your own kids at a restaurant with a placemat? Okay. If we go ahead and have the little handprint turkey that you just saw, you might say that it's colorful or it's nice or it's pretty. We can do better than just hang it on the refrigerator and help to boost their self-esteem. So we're gonna go ahead and really quickly mention that 30 million word gap. It's our job to go ahead and give those extra words. So, with that in mind, how do we actually do that in our classrooms? Besides say, hey, here's that piece of paper. What kind of paper can you guys think of? Go ahead. White paper. I think you could do better. Vellum, sandpaper. We can do virtually a million different kinds of paper. And it's more than just what comes to mind when we say paper. We can talk about the materials that we use, not just here are the pieces that you need for this. You can go into, it is sluggish, paints and materials and the different equipment that we're going to use. The patterns and techniques. Don't even get me started on upcycling. I'm a repurposing queen. And all those things are nice. But where I like to go ahead and concentrate is linking things to their own creations. So I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite art projects that I've done in these years. This is our splatter paint using a screen with toothbrushes. We went ahead and had a ball. We mixed colors, and then we went ahead and introduced them to Jackson Pollock at 5, at 3. We went ahead and, by the way, I love the colors on all of that. Am I hitting the right one? My personal Kandinsky for our easel, for our early circle time in the mornings. That is Olivia, who is just cute as a button, too. She was happy to model. And then bringing it kind of to that up repurposing with the corn mosaic and the paper, and then tying it to Miro. And this leads me to one of my favorite vocabulary enhancers. The Miro is in Barcelona, so why not bring the globe everywhere? Every year we do a mask at preschool. Every year we did a different one. This happened to be one of my favorites. It was at Valentine's Day. Most people think of mask at Halloween. We used a heart shape. We went ahead and talked about the different types of paper, and we even talked about paper weight, believe it or not. But we went ahead and said, where did pandas come from? China. So we went ahead and showed them the map of China, and then we went ahead and said, can you think of any other mask that you might have seen? And we went into the dragon dances used for the Lunar New Year, and we went ahead and then brought in different kinds of masks. We went ahead and introduced them to the mask of Egypt with Tutankhamun, and this is an Inno mask from Nigeria. So they were exposed to that continent. We went ahead and had our puppet theater up, and so we brought in a kabuki mask from Japan and tied it all in with a map and a globe. We went ahead and I am a Mardi Gras fan, so we had to bring in a Mardi Gras mask, and couldn't just leave it at New Orleans. We had to talk about France and how the gargoyle masks were out there, and maybe bring it to Rio de Janeiro. I had to really watch the editing on that one, as you can imagine. Right now, how many of you are sick of that Medusa commercial that's on TV? Exactly. But mythology, if you go ahead and talk about mythology and the mask of Greece and Italy from Rome. And then we have a popular one with any preschooler would be the Mexican wrestling mask. And of course, right now, masks have taken on a whole new importance. Self-care or PPE. These are all terms that they're hearing for the first time or the first 50,000 times. So bringing it closer back to home, kind of coming full circle. This happens to be an Iroquois spirit mask from Lake Erie region, right around the corner. So let's think about that little handprint turkey. And those colorful and nice and pretty and nice vocabulary words that we gave it. Can you guys think of some better words? Richer words? Nice. Patchwork's great. Well, I went ahead and thought about traced, copy, image, impression, replica, keepsake, a treasure, a memento, or remembrance. I happen to have my daughters here from when her kindergarten teacher gave me this one. So I want to thank you for your time. I hope you came up with a new idea maybe, and look at the map a little differently. Thank you.
Okay, so before we jump into our next presentation, a little trivia for everyone. Who has the answer? Are you ready? Mean Girls fans, anyone? Okay, so Miss Norbury, what did she teach? Math? Yeah? Are you sure? Positive? Let's see. You're right! Oh! Calculus is a form of math, of course. And Ms. Norbury is a great teacher, but perhaps needs to work on her boundaries with her students. Yes? It's fine, we've all been there. Next up to the podium, we have a return speaker to TeachTalk. This is Katie, and she was part of the very first TeachTalk in 2014. Yes? And since then, I'm guessing has learned a lot about herself and teaching and the world, and I can't wait to see what that looks like. Katie Massaro, welcome.
Hello. I was so excited to wear white tonight because I never get to in my job. And I got chocolate chip cookie all over them already. All right, let me get this set up here. All right, so I just needed a slide to help me relax. So if you ever wondered what it looks like to move an art room, that was it. All those boxes, about 300. Oftentimes, the K-12 teaching experience is a career path that's straightforward. For example, one of our beloved art teachers just retired after 37 years of being an elementary teacher in the same district. She changed from one elementary building to another, but there are hardly really any promotions or movement within this career path. So when I got the phone call that I was switching jobs for just 1 year, switching to a different building, different times I work, everything, 10 days before school started, the first thing I thought of was, but I just bought brand new glitter tennis shoes that I was hoping my 5-year-olds would like. My second thought was, I'm gonna do what they need me to do. I'm really glad I'm just not the person making the decisions this year. I had been floundering during the pandemic so far on how I could contribute, how I could help. I had been home with my 1-year-old pretty much in isolation, and now I was getting back out there as we started in person in September. I felt motivated to help these preteens through this unique year. And I realized that it was an opportunity to be somewhere for 1 year, to be a visiting art teacher. It was a very freeing concept for someone who will probably work 37 years in the same job. So I wore those glitter and green velvet tennis shoes on my first day of middle school and the many days after. And I quickly found out how middle schoolers compliment you. They wait. They wait until the whole room is nearly cleared out. And at the end of the class, in barely a whisper, they say, "I like your shoes." And then they run away. First week of school, I got my slideshow of expectations and an art project to get started right away. We make it to Friday, and an 8th grade student comes in first period. "You are my favorite teacher so far." "Wow, really?" "Yeah, you're the easiest one." Oh, no, that is not what you want to hear from a middle school student. So I immediately worked on my slideshow expectations and included in there how I knew everyone in this district, including all their current and future coaches. Fall. I taught middle school during an election year. Phew. I feel like I need a t-shirt that says, I survived the 2020 election season with kids who repeat what their parents say. So, to cope with all the buzz, let's call it, I talked about my grandpa. I filled space with stories. So while I demoed, or those awkward 4 minutes at the end of class or during transitions, I shared his World War II stories. How he started smoking at the age of 7. About the time he graduated high school the year after me. How his street smarts saved him. And it's how he survived marching through the Black Forest in Europe. I think I shared these stories with my students because it was helping me grieve. He had died the spring before, on March 14th, 2019. If you don't remember, the last day of school in Ohio was the day before, March 13th. Now, to add a dose of reality, I did lose my cool on a student one day. A kid laying over 2 stools, whining about wearing the mask, and when was our mask break going to happen? I might have said, probably shouted, marching in the Black Forest and fighting for your life and freedom is hard. Sitting in art class with a mask on is not. The kid didn't complain again. I do love the way, though, these middle school kids challenge you, how they are just starting to believe they know more than you. You come up with a project and they try to redo the project in every way. In some ways, I love that they turn your ideas into your own, but when I taught coil pots, I had to remind them, I have been teaching this as long as you've been alive. After the base, you can be as creative as you want, but this is the base, and this is how you do it, and I do know what I'm talking about. There was a time, though, when I didn't know anything. I was outside with the kids on a mask break, and the principal came running out. Schedule change. It was in the email. Now, I can be that stereotypical art teacher who misses things and is late, and I'm definitely a bag lady. But I am good at checking my email. It was then we realized I wasn't on his teacher email list. It was the 6th week of school. Mask breaks. Oh, those mask breaks. For some reason, they decided the kids would get their mask break during their impact classes. Band, choir, art, PE. I hated mask breaks. So boring, so cold. Then I got the basketballs out from recess, and we started playing knockout. If you beat me, you get candy. If you win, you get candy. It's hard for kids to realize that an art teacher has a great 3-point shot. But it makes sense, right? Eye-hand coordination. Anyways, I love helping kids see out of the boxes they've already made for people, and it really helped us connect. And then I started noticing other teachers playing basketball with their students outside, and it was just fun, because that's what we needed, a little gem in our day. Another way that surprised me in creating a connection with students was when we went virtual before and after winter break. Now, when we first heard the news, I cried hard. It was second quarter, and I had just transitioned from hybrid schedule to full-time block schedule, and now another last-minute change where my job description was to be a Zoom MC for middle school. But another hidden gem. I actually got to know that group better than any other quarter. We did POWs and WOWs at the beginning of every class, POW being something bad and a WOW being something good. I would put them in breakout rooms to work on projects, and this is where conversation actually happened. No mask, no plexiglass partitions. We were almost closer in distance. Another favorite gem was to have previous students once again. Our district funnels 3 elementary schools into 1 middle school, so I've had many of these kids for 6 years at the elementary level. It was good to have these familiar faces in class. It took away some of my own nerves. It was also interesting how my former kids, with now a bad reputation with teachers, dropped the attitude for me. There was no reputation to protect with me. I'd known you since you were 5. I'd often have these kids come help during their study hall with an email from the homeroom teacher. Are you sure you want that kid? But isn't that one of the best parts of being an art teacher? Seeing the kids the others don't? And creating a place where all kids could come once a day, and as my students put it, have some zen. I mean, at the beginning of this school year, the kids wouldn't eat their carrots at lunch because they were too crunchy, and they were scared of chewing loudly because nobody was talking in the lunchroom. They didn't know how to be in conversation with others 6 feet apart. Don't worry, they figured it out pretty quick. They do adapt faster than we do. Speaking of adults and us, the one adult I saw every day was Min, my custodian. The relationship between a custodian and an art teacher is a unique one. I'm messy and needy and need to borrow ladders a lot. Now, when I started there, I knew Min, but she didn't know me. See, Min worked with my husband when he was a teenager at Boyart's greenhouse. And when I showed her a picture, the recognition was not right away. It took a while. And finally, Todd? I didn't recognize him. He got fat. I had 3 tall windows that overlooked a parking lot, but they let in a lot of sun. So I started bringing in my houseplants, and before I knew it, Min took over. She brought my plants back to life. One of my favorite things was coming in every morning and checking in on the plants. We even started propagating some and sharing them with other teachers. It brought us both joy during a very difficult year. She also recognized something in me that will always resonate. Min is from Korea, and this is important because her upbringing saw mine. She shared how she saw my mother and grandmother in me, in the way that I taught and interacted with the kids with an old soul, that I carried my grandmother's wisdom with me. That's a comment I will always treasure. And I treasure that year in these stories. It was incredibly hard. It was lonely, but we're on the other side, and I decided to give a talk about it, so these gems can radiate a little further than beyond my head. And why do these stories come up a year later? Why are they so I lost my place. Is it that the process of teaching requires the reflection of our days? And in this strange year, the reflecting was turned off. I was in go mode, COVID mode, if you will. New job, get it done. New rules, stay safe. A new way of being in the world. My new routines of changing my shoes and cleaning my phone and not getting the real cuddles with my daughter until after I had changed my clothes and showered. How did this lifestyle really affect me? And the fear, what we didn't know in September of 2020. Not even letting a single art project touch another one. Where did that fear dissipate to? And yet here I am telling you all the funny and warm-hearted stories. And then I realized perhaps my brain kept all these gems and it threw out all the rocks. It defaulted to the treasure. And now I finally feel like the gems have value because I can share them in community. It was a lonely year without a community. Maybe we were all made to be 37-year teachers, build programs and build relationships. Our treasure isn't instant. It's not pirated. If you're on the island by yourself and alone, is the treasure even valuable? I need to share and be and teach and learn and grow in community. So thank you for letting me reflect and the opportunity to share and be in community with you.
All right. As I am wont to do, I am now going to diffuse this serious and heartwarming situation with humor because that is my upbringing. So, Wisdom comes from many places, sometimes from Star Wars. Any Star Wars fans in the audience? Oh, so who did Yoda share this little gem with? Yes, Luke Skywalker, of course. Yes. Can anybody do the Yoda voice? I know you're not shy. Get out of here with that. It's okay. I won't make you do it. It's fine. It's fine. Yes, of course it is Luke Skywalker. Absolutely. There he is. Actor's name? Oh, that was excellent. Mark Hamill, yes. All right, so I am very happy now to be turning it over to an educator who works very frequently outdoors. I spend most of my time indoors here at the museum, looking out the windows, some days wishing I were outside, not like, what day was that, Tuesday? Oh. Okay, that was terrible. But we have all survived, and hopefully we can look to nature for some inspiration. And so now, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen Graham, Programs Coordinator at Holden Forest and Gardens. Oh, Lizette, I did this 12 times already today. No, you are up next. I'm so sorry. I turned my program inside out. Just forget my intro, but now we are going to turn it over to Lizette Barton, reference archivist for the Cummings Center of the History of Psychology. Did you know this existed? It's incredible, right here at the University of Akron down the street. Lizette, thank you so much. Come on up.
Hello. Thank you so much to the Akron Art Museum for hosting this event. I think it's really cool. And thank you for inviting me to participate. I'm Lizette, and I would like to share a story about a good book and a moment of discovery. So one of my favorite educators from my K-12 experience was my middle school librarian, Mrs. Berkey. And there she is. This is my middle school yearbook. I was an avid reader. I spent a ton of time in the library, and I really loved her. I was even a library aide. And I remember in 5th or 6th grade, she gave me a book called The Outsiders. So she gives me The Outsiders, and she tells me she thinks I'm going to love it. And of course, I do love it. I mean, it is a classic, and there's a reason for that. So when I returned it to her and told her I loved it, she said, "You know what's really great? Essie Hinton is a girl, and she wrote this book when she was in high school." And this blew my middle school mind. I could not believe that a high school girl had written this book. And this bit of news made me love it even more. And then, of course, I read all of Essie Hinton's books, Tex, Rumblefish, Taming the Star Runner, That Was Then, This Is Now. They are all so good, and I was totally smitten. So Mrs. Berkey was absolutely one of those educators who really knew her students and how to guide them and inspire them. She reinforced in me that girls really could do anything, and I think that was important to a 5th or 6th grade girl. And The Outsiders also came to me at just the right time. So I was a middle schooler, and my parents had divorced a couple of years earlier, and I was living with my dad and 2 brothers. I was often the babysitter and even cooked dinner for us because my dad worked crazy hours. So if you've read The Outsiders, I really related to Derry, the oldest sibling forced into being a caretaker, old beyond his years. At peak awkward middle school, I wanted to be as cool as Soda Pop and Cherry Valance. But I also wanted to stay genuine like Johnny. And I certainly wanted to stay gold like Pony Boy, or at least find a cute boy who liked poetry and sunsets as much as I did. It was just the right book at just the right time, and it has stuck with me for years. I have since read The Outsiders 20 times, maybe even more. I still always cry, and I always think about Mrs. Berkey, and I wonder, how did she know? How did she know I needed this book so much right then at that moment? So after I found out I was going to be here tonight, I tracked her down on Facebook, of course, and I messaged her, and to my surprise, she remembered this, and she talked about it like she knew she remembered, like she wasn't just saying, "Oh, I remember you." I could tell it was genuine. And she was just as kind and as awesome as she was 30 years ago. And she said in her message to me, "I just really enjoyed my students and being helpful." So fast forward many years, and I end up going to library school. I have my master's in library and information science, and I work as the reference archivist at the Cummings Center for the History of Psychology at the University of Akron, just right up the road. So under the Cummings Center umbrella, we have the National Museum of Psychology, the Institute for Human Science and Culture, and the Archives of the History of American Psychology. And that's where I'm at. I'm in the archives. We have the personal papers of psychologists, along with laboratory equipment, artifacts, films, sound recordings, books, so really psychology's primary sources. And I work with a variety of patrons. I work with undergraduates, graduate students working on their theses and dissertation research, historians, independent scholars, documentary filmmakers, journalists, writers, really from all over the world. And I've been doing this work for about 15 years. And nothing beats seeing a moment of discovery in real time. Witnessing an aha moment and knowing that I helped facilitate that. It is like the best thing. And it is my very favorite thing about academics, and legit, it is the high I need to continue in the field of higher education. So educating isn't just about content, right? I think we all know that. It's about teaching skills that will enable students to discover and learn on their own. And as cliche as it sounds, educators really should help our students discover things about themselves. As Ms. Berkey would say, enjoy your students, be helpful. So there are a handful of titles I always buy if I come across at a thrift store or a used bookstore. I pass them on to friends. I leave them in those little libraries about town. And The Outsiders is definitely one of those titles. This book is so important to me still, and it is super important just within the historical context of young adult literature. It is a great book, and I love to share it. So that's what the raffle is for, right? So I have like an extra copy of The Outsiders. So I will draw a raffle ticket. Oh yes, another drum roll from our musician down front. So the number is 262-5485. 262. Yay! Okay, so I will bring you this book. I would say read it. If you've already read it, reread it, and then pass it on, preferably to a middle schooler. So good night, and stay gold.
Yes, the love for books is strong. I'm going to use that as a segue into a shameless plug for you all when we're finished here to visit. We have Elizabeth's Bookshop here tonight doing a pop-up bookstore out in the lobby. So they're a wonderful resource here in Akron, and I'd love for you to stop by their pop-up bookshop in the lobby. Oh my gosh, this picture is too much. I love it. Oh. Oh. Let's see. Oh, do we see right in the center here? Oh, I love it. You don't even have any embarrassing hair in that photo. Ooh, I had some mall bangs, as we called it in my hometown. All right, so before we move on, one of my favorite teachers, famous for being boring, Bueller. What did Mr. Benstein teach? Tana coming in hot with the answer. Let's see. Ready? Da, 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 da. Economics. Oh, the stakes are so low. I don't even have a prize, but I'm very impressed with that answer. He does know economics. All right, so let's jump back into the world of early learners with our... I'm loud enough. Deborah Chavez, come on down. Welcome.
If you change the first 5 years of a child's life, you change a life forever. Good evening, everybody, and I want to first give honor to my Heavenly Father for every opportunity that He allows me and every opportunity He'll give to me in the future. And I just want to thank my family, my best friend, and the lovely Miss Salone back there. You were wonderful and very patient. Thank you. Well, this is just my title, and it starts off, the first 5 or 50, and you guys like first 5 or 50. Well, it just simply means the first 5 years of life also equals the first 60 months of life. So we're just talking about the whole first 5, okay? So have you ever had an interaction with a child under the age of 5, and you stand back like, that's them, and then that's us? Like, oh my goodness, he is amazing, or she is astonishing. You know what? That's because somebody in their life decided to start laying a foundation for them very early in life, very early in life. Okay, I just thought this picture was great because when you talk about laying a foundation for children, and that's what my whole point is, laying a foundation, improving those gems that we already have, because every single child born on the face of the earth is a gem, no matter how you cut it, slice it, or dice it. They're a gem. They're a blessing, and we all should be blessed to be part of their lives because it is awesome, especially this part. Look at that picture. Just like their little brains. All kind of areas for connection. All kind of spaces for us to get in there and work. Even look, it's so perfect. It even got all the workers that you need. Grandpa, grandma, brothers, sisters, neighbors, educators, teachers, those people that can really change lives. Do you hear me? When you put your heart in what you do here, we change lives. We change lives. So John Locke said, tabula rasa, for a clean slate. Okay? A slate. Think about that. That is awesome. Because that's how we're born. It takes love. It takes patience. It takes dedication. Just like a precious gem. You know, they produce treasures for years and years to come. Just like our babies, for years and years to come. They're just like the bank. If you don't put nothing in, no way you're going to get anything out. You just can't. Early brain development has a lasting impact on shaping the future success of all children. This is one time when race, it doesn't matter. This is one time when the amount of money you have, it doesn't matter. This is one time when how educated you are, it doesn't matter. It's about giving these kids connections that will set them up for years to come. Years to come. You wouldn't believe how fast babies' brains develop. This is nothing new. I know you heard it a million times, especially if you're an educator. A million times. We need to revisit that. We're not thinking deep enough about it. Those first 5 years, you're setting them up for their whole life. Think about it. Think about a community where you have positive thinkers, hard workers, people that's motivated, people that care about one another, people that understand that for every action, it's a reaction. People that are dreamers, that want more, that believe in more, that deserve more. That's what we plant in that foundation. We give them that. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Let me move on. Paris. I'm going to talk about Paris real quick. Very personal to me because he's my precious gem. He's 26 years old now. But when I had him, I just turned 28 weeks. My son came out weighing 1 pound and 10 ounces, okay? I wish you could see him today. You'd be like, wow. Anyway, he came out weighing 1 pound and 10 ounces. And I mean, the hospital gave me everything I needed when it was time to go. How to work the heart monitor, how to do how to give him his medicine, how to give him a treatment. They just forgot to talk to me about his precious little brain development. You know, he was really early. He needed some extra stuff. I was a young mother. I was 22. But buddy, if I had it to do again, it'll be a whole different ball game. That's why I'm telling you it's so important. It's not a game. When you're an educator, that's not a job you take for a paycheck. No. You're changing lives on the job. You're creating human beings. You're molding and shaping our future, not just theirs, our future as a community, as a world, as living people, as human beings. We're shaping that. We're making that happen. So, just a few things is out on the table. I won't go through all of these about how you lay a foundation for your child. And I laughed so hard at the inner voice one because it says when kids grow up, you want them to hear. You want your kids to hear you in a situation that's so tough. They don't know what they're going to do. They don't know which way to turn. They don't know how to think. But when you're laying that foundation, they hear you. They hear you. That inner voice is working all the time. When you give it to them, they have it. So we have to trust them. You know, they get older, you worry. My son is 26. I still call him all day. My family said, you should have had another kid. You just, oh my goodness. But do understand, that foundation is just at the top of the line. So it says here, remember in the beginning I said, if you change the first 5 years of a child's life, you've changed their life forever. We got to go way further with it than that. We have to go way deeper than that. If you change the first 5 years of a child's life, you have changed generations and generations to come. Thank you.
Oh, I love it so much. It really makes me want to go home and squeeze my babies as well. There's a quote I heard recently that, I forget the author, forgive me, but it's, each baby born is better than the last. And it's just true. They're all so incredible. And the work of early childhood educators is incredibly important. And I encourage you, if you have one in your life or you know one, to advocate for respect for the profession and higher pay and higher, woo! Early childhood education is so important, and we trust our future generations to these people. So, soapbox, getting off. Okay, so Jen, I jumped the gun a little bit on your presentation, but we are now happy to welcome you. I think I'm gonna even skip my little cutesy thing here. School of Rock, yes, we love. Before he jumped in as a sub was... Whoop, whoop, yeah, in a band. My gosh, our music teacher friend down here is like, so scary. Thank you. All right, Jen Graham, Programs Coordinator at the Holden Forest and Gardens. Please welcome.
Thank you. So sorry. No problem. All right, hello everyone. My name is Jen. I prefer the pronoun she, hers, and I am the current Public Programs Coordinator out at Holden Forest and Gardens. So Gina was right, I do a lot of work outside, but I do sometimes get caught up in my office. Today the sun came out and I did not go outside. It was very kind of sad. Did we get batteries for this? Okay, just want to make sure I'm pressing the right buttons here. So what I want to talk about today is not something that I've been doing in my current role. I've only been in my current role since September. I'm sure a few of you, we've already heard about how the pandemic has disrupted some people's careers. I completely lost my career. I was furloughed in April of 2020, and then I was finally laid off after a long furlough in July of 2021. So I've been rebuilding my career, but I left on a high note. I was furloughed in April, and then I found out that in May that I had won an award for a program that I had developed. So I'm going to be talking about a program that I developed for a place that I no longer work, but the program itself is very near and dear to me, so I am, not opening a wound, I'm just, revisiting something that I care quite a lot about. So just starting with the title here, heartberries, one of my favorite wildflowers is wild strawberry. It is an early bloomer and an early fruiter, so it's kind of like a leader on the forest floor there. In Anishinaabe, it is known as Odeamin, and in Anishinaabe culture and many indigenous cultures, the strawberry or the heartberry is a leader. It's good medicine. It teaches people about creation, about commitment and openness. Those seeds of the strawberry are on the outside of the fruit. It wears its heart on its sleeve, quite literally. And so I've decided to, describe this First People Day, this program that I developed as a heartberry, as something that is very near and dear to me, and it did teach me quite a lot about creation, about commitment, and about openness and vulnerability. There are gems on the forest floor, and they've provided gems in my life. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today, and it can be a little heavy, but ultimately we are rewarded by the experiences that we open up for ourselves. So I don't know if that worked. We'll see where this goes. All right, here we go. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a land acknowledgement just to kind of center us in where we are today. Whether we're downtown at the Akron Art Museum or in the woods at Holden Arboretum, I want us to kind of come together to acknowledge our presence on the traditional lands of the Erie and the Kaskasia peoples, that these lands hold historical significance for more than just those groups and to countless other groups as well, including the Haudenosaunee Confederacy of Upstate New York, the Shawnee, and the Anishinaabe of the Great Lakes. The land that our current institutions are built on was disrupted by the disease and warfare of European colonization and was acquired by the United States government through the Treaty of Greenville. Its people were forcibly removed. Not only do we acknowledge the original stewards of the land that we occupy, but we acknowledge the thousands of indigenous people of diverse tribes and nations who call Northeast Ohio home today. As always, an acknowledgement like this is only a first step, and it's a first step towards an ongoing commitment to honoring, supporting, and amplifying Native voices and communities, past, present, and future. And I'm sure that many of you have seen, if you are interested in incorporating Indigenous teachings into your lesson plans, I'm sure, I skipped that little screenshot there. Well, I'm sure you've seen this map before. This is the Native Land app. You can Google it. There's also some phone numbers that you can text, and it just very simply tells you the different territorial claims to what we would call Northeast Ohio or the Western Reserve today. It's much more complicated than this, but if you're just looking to jump right in, this is a great start to kind of get to know who was on this land and who this land is important to. Maybe we'll use the mouse the whole time. So when creating the event, First People Day, it was really important for me to understand the world that I was working within. It's not doom and gloom, but there are some heavy facts involved in this area of study. Reclaiming Native Truth surveyed 13,000 people in 11 states and revealed some pretty telling statistics. 40% of those surveyed thought that Native Americans were extinct. And that's probably because 66% of those people had never met a Native person in face-to-face. Teachers and parents, and I'm sure you've experienced this, both as teachers and probably as parents as well, found Native stories included in general curriculum to be inaccurate and underrepresented, and that there was a lack of awareness around tribal diversity. This, according to the person who was running this survey, who works with Reclaiming Native Truth, Crystal Echo Hawk, this invisibility and erasure is the modern form of racism against Native people. Native people do not make up a large percentage of our population, but they make up a considerable percentage of our population. Here in Ohio, there are just under 100,000 people of Native ancestry living in Ohio, but Ohio has no federally recognized tribes. And this is where we can really assist with this movement in our lessons and in our daily lives, because they are not 66% of people are not interacting with the Native person in their day-to-day lives. We can do a lot to amplify those stories and amplify the fact that, they're here, they're your neighbors, they work for NASA. A lot of people don't know that, but there's actually a whole side of NASA that is Native American engineers. And so this is an important, sorry, that's not moving forward, but we'll just wait. Be patient. I don't think I skipped anything. Sorry about that. So, yeah, I'll start with how I came into this event. I started working at Cleveland Metro Parks in 2016, at the end of 2015, beginning of 2016 is when I started working with Cleveland Metro Parks. And I was the first ever historical interpreter / naturalist at Rocky River Nature Center. So they had had lots of people going out and telling you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and everything in between. But they never had someone who specialized in connecting people to those things. And of course, people have relationships to plants and plants have relationships to people, so I was very excited about this role. But one of the hardest things that I was asked to do was take over the first People Day event. I unfortunately did not study Native American history in school. I went to Oberlin College and I studied early US feminism, which unfortunately also meant that I studied a lot of white women. So I did not really know much, I knew nothing, I should say, about Native American history. And so I knew just enough to know that I should not be handling this event. And I was essentially acting as my own gatekeeper in this way. But when I was given the choice, okay, maybe we just scrap the event entirely, I didn't think that was the best option. That just, you need the representation. Maybe I'm not the best person to be doing it, but I'm going to give it a stab, and I'm going to try to make it better. So First People Day did exist. It was already an event, and it was an event that was not up to date. We'll put it plainly. It was not up to date. There was a lot of face painting, a lot of tomahawks, a lot of just people in costumes because they enjoyed playing cowboys and Indians. And it was just playing into these stereotypes. Ohio has no federally recognized tribes, and so it's very easy for people to, oh, this is what I see in the Westerns, so this is how it is. This is what I learned in school. It stopped at 1900. That's where Native people stop. No, nothing past 1900. So I really wanted to change that, and so I proposed that we start switching gears, that we put aside the primitive skills, the emphasis on antiquity, and we work on telling that whole story. And we were really lucky because Rocky River Nature Center is situated, I don't know if has anyone been to Rocky River Nature Center? A couple of people have. Maybe you've climbed Fort Hill stairs. I haven't climbed Fort Hill stairs in 2 years, and I'm kind of happy about that. They are 155 stairs, straight up 100 feet up a rock cliff, and they bring you directly to something really cool, which is a ancient earthworks that was built over 2,000 years ago, and you can still see it. It's very, very poorly eroded, but it's one of the few in Northeast Ohio that's not currently a parking lot. So we did have that on site, so that ancient earthworks was a good jumping off point. We can tell that story, but how do we bring it beyond that? Most people know that American Indians made arrowheads out of flint, and they know the artifacts. They get that in school and at museums, but they don't get beyond the dioramas. So we wanted to kind of bring it forward, and so we really learned in doing this event, like the value of switching gears. It can be scary to do something new that you don't know anything about, but sometimes, that's a really great opportunity to learn something new. So we revamped it. We changed it from come learn about Native people and get your face painted and run around, and we turned it into storytelling. We wanted to make sure that people understood that Native people live in Cleveland today. They work for NASA, they work for the City Club of Cleveland, they're your neighbors, they're your colleagues, and they're part of the community. So that we wanted to meet people where they were, which was Native people are extinct, and challenge that stereotype and bring it to a new understanding. So we created this theme, Native Stories, our Cleveland stories, and we partnered with the Native community. We made contact with the Lake Erie Native American Council, who has been around since the 1990s, and they're a wonderful group of Native Clevelanders who are from many different tribes and nations who come together to teach each other culture and make sure that their kids and the next generation grow up knowing about ribbon skirts, knowing about the stories and the dances of their culture. Sorry, I keep using the clicker and it just doesn't, it's not my friend tonight. So we changed it from a lot of just various stations. We wanted to make sure that we were really truly educating. What is the point of an educational event if no one is learning anything? And so we got 10 exhibitors. We had 5 performances, including dancers. This is this young girl here is named Sybil. I think she was 4 in this picture. One of the most beautiful things about this event is that we did it. I was a part of this event for 4 years, so I saw Sybil's younger brother as a baby, and then I saw him as a toddler, and then I saw him the last year we did the event, I saw her younger brother actually dance, and same with Sybil, I saw her grow up a little bit as well. So it was really cool because they were a group that at first 1 or 2 people wanted to exhibit with us. They weren't like, they were like, the Metro Parks, who are these people? Why are they asking us to do this? What is this event? At that time, we still had a rock, and I apologize for referencing this word, but we still had a rock, a monument in one of the parks using the S word to refer to Native American women. And so how would they want to trust the parks if we're still using teepees in our marketing, if we're still using antiquated slurs for Native American people? So at first the participation was kind of slow, but we really had opened up the event to amplify their voices. It was not about the Metro Parks. It was difficult because when you're an organization, you want to center yourself. We are doing this event. This is our event. But for this event, I wanted to kind of make sure we pulled back. We're supporting the event. We are the venue. We are the marketing team. We can help you with our resources, but you are in control of your own stories. You're in control of your own narrative. And from only 1 or 2 exhibitors, we moved up to 10 exhibitors. From only 1 dance performance, enough of their community dancers wanted to join us that we were able to do 3 performances. We had flute players, we had lecturers from the community, we had lectures from scholars from the various colleges around the Metro Parks. And this sounds very like academic and boring, but we also had story times for younger kids. You don't, like we've all said with these younger early childhood educators, you can introduce them to topics. They are ready to handle things. They want to learn. They want their brains to expand, and their brains can expand faster than the universe. So we brought them in for story times. We introduced them to art. We introduced them to myths and legends and plant medicine. And we led hikes, and it really blossomed. So the very first year I did First People Day, we only had 600 visitors come. And that's reflective of how that event just wasn't serving the community. People didn't want to paint their faces and run around playing cowboys and Indians. People wanted to learn. They wanted to challenge themselves. And by the end, the last iteration of this event, we had over 1,600 visitors. So we more than tripled our visitors by changing gears, by taking that risk, and by stepping back and allowing other voices to shine through. So this is really a difficult thing for a lot of people because, of course, I'll just say it again, I did not know anything about Native American history. I had never met an Indigenous person before I started running this event. And I think a lot of people in Ohio especially have a similar experience. So how do you start incorporating this into your lessons? How do you start incorporating this into your daily lives? And so the main advice I can give you is that you don't have to be perfect. I can give you a few best practices to kind of start with. I can give a few resources, but you don't have to be perfect. You might make mistakes. You might start smaller just to see what you can find. But it's more important to try, I think. If your heart is in the right place, if you really want to incorporate this, it's okay to feel unsure and to maybe stumble along the way. But if you keep, nothing is quick. I think that we get stuck in perfectionism a lot of the time. We want to be the problem solvers. We want to win well, I like to win awards because I like trophies. They're shiny. But we want to be that person. We want to inspire people. We want to really achieve immediately. But things like this, you really do need to learn. You really do need to take that time and just, do your best. So a few best practices that I have learned through this event is that it's important to choose lessons, stories, and activities that are tribally specific. Ohio's a difficult place to pin down. We had ancient peoples here. We had historic peoples here. We had colonialism come in and disrupt everything. We had refugees coming through Ohio. So whose land is this? Whose land was this? It's kind of a moot point. We have people from all different tribes across the United States now living in Ohio. So if you can find a lesson that goes with what you want to teach that is tribally specific, maybe it's sand art from the Diné and the Navajo people. Maybe it is beadwork that references wampum bells from the Haudenosaunee people of upstate New York. If you can find something that references a tribe as opposed to just Native Americans, that is a good start. Using present tense verbs and considering teaching current events. A lot of times lessons that you get in textbooks, there's so much to cover that, you pick and choose. You have to. You can't get through it in a year. But Native American history tends to stop at 1900. In Ohio, Treaty of Greenville, they've been forcibly removed by 1795 from Cleveland. So where do you go from there? There's so much going on. One thing that I learned that really filled in the gaps for me, and there are resources for this, so I won't go into the whole story. I could talk forever about this. In the 1950s, there was a federal act passed. The United States government didn't want to fund reservations anymore, so they told Native Americans, go to these cities, we'll pay for you to get there, and then you can find a job in a factory. Cleveland was one of those cities. Cleveland was chosen because there are no federally recognized tribes. So when they left the reservation, moved to Cleveland, it was meant to break their ties to their culture and assimilate them into civilized culture in a city like Cleveland or a city like Chicago. And so that's where a lot of people who live in Cleveland today, they are descendants of the people who left reservations, moved to Cleveland, got $300 from the Indian Bureau, and then had to find a way to ride the transit system, had to find a way to find a place to rent on their own without any help. And so that's something that we don't learn in school. That's something that I didn't learn in school, and it really changed my thinking. It filled in these blanks. It taught me so much, and I'm a better person for it, I think. I hope. But yeah, so using present tense verbs, teaching current events. Something that's on the mind of kids a lot right now is climate change and water quality and the health of the planet. A lot of times Native youth that are their age are on the forefront of these movements. You can really bring them into learning about Native cultures, modern Native cultures, through current events, not just history classes, not just social studies, but science and STEM and math and art. So another best practice is to give credit. And if you are doing an event, I know most of you are probably school educators in K-12, but I work at an institution that's a museum. So if I were to have someone come to my event, you can't pay someone an exposure. You want to pay them for their expertise. They have expertise that you don't have, so give them credit, give them an honorarium, value that knowledge. A lot of times we tend, especially in museums, tend to place the value on a college education, a bachelor's, master's, PhD, but these are people, it respects their traditional ecological knowledge, it respects their lived experience in their community to pay them to teach at your institution. But if you're just looking up a lesson for your class, give credit. Where did you find that video? Which elder wrote that song that you're now singing in your class? Make things specific, because the more general we are, the more capable people are of just relying on stereotypes to fill in our blanks. And then again, just, you don't have to be perfect. If you make a mistake, be humble about it. Learn from it. Be open to someone telling you that you're wrong or that you have offended them. And, that can be really hard to take in. So, make sure to take a few breaths, maybe step back for a bit, maybe think about it before you react. But there's no harm. If you don't know an answer, ask. Look something up online. If you would like to do a land acknowledgement, try to connect to a Native American Studies department at a university or the Lake Erie Native American Council instead of going off and trying to write one on your own. And just know that sorry, I should be advancing. Just know that you don't have to be perfect when you are putting these events and these classes on. It's important to acknowledge the past. The past definitely informs the present, definitely will continue to inform into the future, but don't get cemented in the past. See how you can bring these Native stories into the future so that they feel more present and tangible, because that's the way to really increase the visibility and fight the racism against Native peoples. Oh, yeah, you don't have to be perfect. I'll say it again, just because it's on the slide. So just some shared successes. I mentioned these before. We did more than double our numbers. We had a bunch of happy teachers sending their kids to our event for extra credit, because we had created something that was actually valuable. It wasn't just an event to, wow, I'm having a bad weekend, I need my kids to get out of the house, let's just leave them in the nature center. It was actually an event that people wanted to attend with their kids. They were very excited about it, and teachers were sending them. Girl Scout troops, Boy Scout troops were coming to us. We had college students coming for extra credit. But more importantly, hearing the feedback from the community. The Native community would come to our event, not just to present, not just to be exhibitors, but to meet each other. They would come in their regalia, their ribbon shirts, their ribbon dresses, and they would join the dances even if they weren't a part of the group, they would be invited up to join. So it was truly a community event. We had a woman in the audience who had been adopted out of a reservation. This came up very recently in current events, how Native children are often taken from their families. This was a person who had experienced that in the modern day, and she was looking to connect to her Native heritage, and she had come to our event to do that. And so it's more than just numbers. You hear these stories. We had a kid who we did a little river blessing above the Rocky River, and we had a child come up to the person who had presented that river blessing and said that she was inspired, this little 8-year-old was inspired to protect the water because of what Kara had said during her little talk over the river. And so it's more than just numbers, like I said. It's these really, truly connective experiences with the community. And then we did, like I said, I love trophies, so here's a picture of the trophy. I haven't seen it. Like I said, I had lost my job before the announcement came in that we had won the award for the event, but a friend of mine who still works at the Nature Center graciously took a picture for me. So I have seen it. It's a beautiful little glass trophy. We did receive acknowledgement for the event in 2020 from the National Association of County Parks and Rec Officials. It's a lot. But that really did go to show that what we had started 4 years ago, it was long. Like I said, you don't solve these problems right away, and we didn't solve the problems. He only had just started. But what we had started 4 years previously had really come to something that not only benefited us as an organization, which of course it did, it got more people through the door, but it really truly was benefiting our community. So it did feel like one of those heartberries that we have in the beadwork up there. So Chimagwetch to everyone who was here listening to me ramble a little bit today. I do have some resources if you are interested. I'm just gonna list them at you here really quickly. If you got a pen and paper, feel free to write them down. But like I said, I worked with the Lake Erie Native American Council. I worked with Cleveland State University, Kent State, Oberlin College. If you are looking to do more curriculum-based work, the National Museum of the American Indian, it's the Smithsonian, has Native Education 360, which shows how to involve Native American culture in all different aspects of teaching, so math, art, science, all different realms. Reclaiming Native Truth is the thing that did the survey, so you can see the different things that people are facing, and also does a lot to show current events in Native communities, as well as Illuminatives, which is a nice little pun. Hopefully you remember that without me having to spell it. But there's so many resources out there. I've been taking a lot of webinars from the Outdoor Learning store in Canada. So Canada has done a lot of reckoning recently with their Indigenous history, and the United States hasn't so much. So when I'm looking for resources, oftentimes I am finding things from Canada, the Great Lakes area in Canada. So yeah, I'll just end with, you don't have to be perfect. We won't solve these problems overnight, but even just a little bit of visibility increases the chance that someone will learn something, and you can change the world with just that little bit. We recently changed the mascot in Cleveland to not be Chief Wahoo. So that made a difference. Every little thing that Lake Erie Native American Council was doing in the community, everything that they helped us with on our event helped spread the word that Native people exist. Native people are not extinct, they're your neighbors, and they are valuable part of our community. So again, Shimagwech, thank you very much, and I will put this microphone in someone else's hands.
Thank you. A good reminder for me that sometimes the most important part of being educated is unlearning before you can start learning again. Ugh. So we've spent time with early learners, we have spent time with the general public, we spent time with middle schoolers, right? And now we are going to spend some time talking about educating and engaging with adults. So I welcome to the stage, I'm gonna skip. There we go. Mary Petrowski, a certified dementia practitioner, to let us shed some light on working with this population. Mary.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Akron Art Museum. Thank you, Gina, Sloan, Chris, Jim. I just want to acknowledge that I feel very cool and simultaneously embarrassed using this microphone, but I'm going to do the best that I can. My gems and treasures are my very wise, very precious, very resilient elders that I am so lucky to work with. I'm going to try not to look at these pictures because I could also ramble. Let's see. There we go. I'm not a classroom teacher. Sometimes I do teach in a classroom. I do hope to help people learn. I am a CDP, and what does that even mean? That is a certified dementia practitioner, and so I share what I have learned through my career serving senior citizens with frontline staff at senior living communities, people from the public who want to learn more about dementia, museum educators, and just anybody and everybody I can talk to about my passion, which is folks who live with dementia. My name is Mary, and I've heard my whole life, Mary, Mary, quite contrary. Never took it really to heart because I knew I was not a contrary person. I've heard you know that, even when you're little, you know that contrary is kind of a negative term. You're not really sure what it means, but you learn that it's that person who's constantly, pushing back. It's that person, if you say black, they say white. If you say no, they'll say yes. So, I'm a delight. My mother told me that, and I know she wouldn't lie to me. And anybody out there that knows me personally can back that up. So my title is a certified dementia practitioner again, and I work with senior citizens and the people who care for them. I have worked with low-income seniors, profound disabilities, and seniors living with dementia. And I've received a ton of training on that word dementia, which is much used, but very much a mystery to most people. A lot of people know someone who has a diagnosis of dementia, but they don't really know what it means. And so the word dementia just means memory loss, confusion, cognitive impairment. That's all it means. And a lot of things can cause that. So what can cause dementia? Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, Lewy body. Those things cause irreversible dementia. And so no matter, this is a gentleman, and he is talking to a screen, and he is waving to his daughter, who he is having a Zoom conversation with on Thanksgiving Day during 2020. So that is just the sweetest and most heartbreaking thing. But, you know, I'm not going to talk about the facts or figures or whys of dementia today. Dementia, the diseases that cause dementia, basically they travel through the brain, they starve the cells in the brain, and they kill the brain. So people who are living with dementia are getting up every day and taking that journey, and they are experiencing the death of their own brain. So that's a really, really bleak scenario. Whoever I'm talking to, whether it's a hour-long PowerPoint with a community group or a 6-hour-long staff training session, you know, all I want people to know is that people with dementia are doing the best they can as they're experiencing the death of their own brain. In a scenario this bleak, it's sometimes easy to lose the humanity. This is a gal who attended her granddaughter's wedding during COVID, so socially distanced. And as you can see, there's really nothing depressing about any of my pictures. We're having the best time in these pictures. And, you know, people who live with dementia, they want to laugh and learn and live and adventure and experience. And the tough thing about that is they're dependent on us. We are the gatekeepers for their lives. During the pandemic, we learned about social isolation. They have lived social isolation, you know, the whole time that they have lost their ability to drive, lost their ability to do so many of the things that made their life real. If we don't take them to fireworks on the 4th of July, they don't get to see fireworks anymore. If we don't take them to the theater, if we don't take them to a museum, those things are lost from their lives. These are things that, you know, make up human life, a rich human experience. And they can't access those things without us. So that's my mission, is to really help cultural spaces really offer that warm welcome for people with, you know, disability, people with cognitive impairment. While the pandemic highlighted the crisis of social isolation and it made it real for the world, public spaces have always thrown up barriers for senior citizens and people with dementia. We just, maybe now we know a little bit how it feels to, think of not having the ability to make a phone call or get on your computer or hop in your car. A few years ago around Father's Day, I was planning a trip for guys, and I thought, what would be more fun than to take a group of guys to a car dealership? Great food for reminiscence and conversation, and of course, we get to ask about the new models, and we get to, try the new gadgets and get, hear about the outrageous prices. So it sounded like fun to me. I thought that was pretty universally fun, exciting thing for guys to do. That day we represented many levels of ability, many diagnoses. We were a postal worker, an attorney, a veteran, an author, senile dementia, diabetes, clinical depression, and cancer. And it took a while for us to make it through the door with our walkers and canes, and of course we had to coordinate safe use of the wheelchair lift. And the day we walked through the Mercedes dealership, we encountered something that I hadn't thought of as I, planned this exciting day. We were not surrounded by attentive staff. We were kind of going it alone, making our way through that door. And contrary to what you might imagine, none of the staff helped us. And in fact, none of the staff talked to us, and none of the staff even made eye contact with us. So age, infirmity, and disability are not sexy, right? So people living with dementia are the victims of our inability to face the ugly realities of living with dementia. With my work, I hope to help cultural institutions make changes that will allow them to truly provide welcoming, engaging experiences for all of us, including our elders living with dementia. And by the way, contrary to how you might picture our next move at the Mercedes dealership, we did have the best time. We playfully kicked some tires. We got sticker shock, and we all got behind the wheel of that bright yellow Mercedes and took a bunch of selfies. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you so much for the work that you do. Such a good reminder that discovery never ends, adventure never needs to end, and that we all have the power to be a really positive, oh my gosh. I want to be on that merry-go-round. A positive force in someone's day, and that can really make an impact. Oh, this guy's having a great time. I love this. I think your work reminds me that sometimes the most important thing you can do is jump into someone's world, wherever they happen to be. It's true of children and of adults, and whoever you interact with on a daily basis. Oh, incredible. All right, so we started with art, we're ending with music, and we've taken quite a long journey in between to all sorts of things. I'm going to turn it over now to, not to Sidney Poitier, unfortunately. Does anybody know the name of this film? Oh my gosh, teachers know everything. It is To Sir with Love. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marissa Leonino Lang. Welcome. Owner and teacher of Lang Music Studio.
Would you all do me a favor, and while I set something up over there, would you stand up and stretch and do like a 7th inning stretch for me, please? And you can sit down whenever you want. Imagine if babies were expected to learn how to speak by reading rather than being spoken to, acculturating the language, practicing with babble. And if the baby said or read one wrong word, they were corrected. How would that baby feel about speaking? A preposterous notion, right? It may cause one to wonder then why the traditional way to learn to play piano is this very process of sight before sound, generating music from the outside. For a new student, very excited, this becomes music at the very first lesson. With the focus now on decoding numbers, lines, and circles, the student becomes disconnected from the instrument, and even more so from their sound. I'll play a little to demonstrate. Right hand playing, hear the high notes. Left hand playing, hear the low notes. I was really nervous. Now, for the videos I'm about to show, to meet authorization and release requirements, I will now be sharing videos of my own children, who are also among the students at Lang Music Studio. All children are musical. You can clap for her. They can sing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go. We are the dinosaurs, carry me along, something high.
Did you see that cut off at the end? They can play invented instruments. They may even conduct. How then do we teach formal instruction while nurturing this creativity? If we learn music similarly to the way we learn language, then it's imperative to hear and speak music before reading and writing it. Discovering this new approach to piano instruction has been for me like finding treasure buried in the very dense writings of music learning theorist Edwin Gordon and the extremely thorough work of piano pedagogue Marilyn Lowe. The gem I will share with you today is a specific collection of pieces, Little Gems for Piano by Paula Dreyer and Marilyn Lowe. These pieces are designed to motivate students to imagine, create, and improvise. There are no titles and very few markings about tempo, dynamics, and style. Students can then make these creative decisions on their own and name each piece, writing directly on the music page. Each piece is individualized and becomes their own. Please note that the notation you see here is for the teacher to use while teaching the student by rote through the movement, imitation of sound and movement. While teaching by rote is only a small portion of my own teaching, it is an important one because the student can learn quickly, naturally, intuitively. The oral aspect of music education is often neglected, though fine oral skills are crucial in order to become a complete musician. Here is a little bit of what this original piece A sounds like. example shows us how musicians are capable of playing and producing more musically satisfying sounds than they can at first read. I'll now share with you one student's creation using piece A, which she titled Cat and Mouse Race to Get Mac and Cheese. The mood is angry happy, and you can see the illustration she drew at the bottom here, that delicious bowl of mac and cheese everyone's racing for around the table. You'll hear how this young student explored different ways to play the piece. One hand as a cat, one hand as a mouse, so she can explore different tempos, articulations, and moods. The creating will then continue with future activities to guide the student to improvise, such as playing the piece at different places on the keyboard, creating a new section to add to the piece, and combining pieces together to create a mashup. This creative approach to teaching piano has even influenced how I teach other pieces. This other collection by Juan Cabeza called Diversions, which I usually teach by rote, I've now been able to open it up to many creative opportunities for the students. Here's a little bit of this original piece, Diversion 11. I played all of it because it's so beautiful. I challenged an early intermediate student, full disclosure, my tween daughter, to change the piece into an unusual meter. Think Mission Impossible theme, dun 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 dun, and also to add cluster chords for harmonies. Now, had I asked her to read the notation for this idea first, write in the counts, decipher the notes, play while counting out loud, this process would have become disconnected and laborious and probably a battle. But instead, it became a game. That's not how I teach my students to bow. Adults, even those who diligently studied piano in their childhood, have often said to me, I just want to be able to play. And these little gems and this kind of creative teaching are an example of how the sound before sight exploration and music learning can unlock creativity for both the teacher and the student in the piano studio. Thank you very much.
That was delightful. I thought you were going to play me off here. That does remind me of a journey I've taken too in my teaching, and realizing that perhaps it's not lessons that I'm after, but creating invitations for discovery, and letting go of some of the things that are written down and instructions has been actually very freeing. So, oh my goodness, what a journey we have been on tonight. I want to thank you all so much for spending your time with me. Can we have a round of applause for our speakers? Woohoo! Incredible. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. Thank you for allowing us to learn from you, even if you don't teach in the same environment or subject matter or age group that we do. And I encourage you all to continue on and share your stories. That I don't want this to end here tonight, but please continue to gather and to talk about what we do so that we can continue to have these wonderful examples of educators in our community so we can continue to change the world. Yes? Okay, the museum is open for another full 10 minutes. So I encourage you, don't be strangers, don't make this your only visit. There's lots of things to do here at the museum. And if you're interested in connecting with one of our speakers here from tonight, they'll be out in the lobby. And if you are a teacher and want to come to the museum on a tour, talk to me. Free, we'll pay for your bus, we'll pay for your sub. You can talk to me out there. But one more round of applause. Woo! Thank you all.